Hey guys, Harrison, I'm back at it once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome to episode 5 of Dre Talks, the series where I feature other games and talk about things that aren't necessarily sporting related. This week's game is FIFA Street on the Xbox 360, the 2012 reincarnation of the series, and let's put it to you this way, I don't exactly miss FIFA 12's impact engine one bit, but there's some really entertaining gameplay in there, so I hope you enjoy it. In the meantime though, my subject for this episode is going to be talking about something that's cropped up a lot recently that I wanted to vent and basically just get my thoughts out there on, and that's what I like to call casual racism. And it's something that I think is starting to rear its ugly head an awful lot in society, and I've had I think 2 or 3 counts of this happen to me personally in the last year or so that I kind of want to talk about and share. And this is going to be a sensitive topic. It might be the most difficult commentary I've ever done, but this is something I really want to get out there because it frustrates the crap out of me. You know, for those guys who don't know or watching me for the first time, I am of Jamaican heritage. I was born here. I was born in London, England. So technically, you could call me a British citizen because I was born here. But both sides of my family have Jamaican heritage. But like, they both have Jamaican families. So hence why I'm black, obviously. I'll tell you a couple of stories. Okay, first one happened to me when I was in university a couple of weeks ago, where I was working in a group with a couple of Lithuanian girls who were my friends. And one of the Lithuanian girls, as I was carrying a camera, because I do broadcast journalism in university, I was carrying one of those big fancy cameras back to the classroom. And on the way back to the classroom, she said to me, as a statement, loud in front of all of her other friends who were in the group with me, she said, as a black guy, you should be used to carrying things. Now, that's clearly a jab at my colour for... You could go back to, say, the slavery days. Of course, I'm sure many of you know who are up on your history know that a lot of black people were held as slaves, mainly in North America a few hundred years ago. Obviously, that was abolished about 120, 150 years ago or something like that. But yeah, it was clearly a jab at me for my, at my colour, for making a slavery reference. Now, I didn't say anything at the time because I didn't want to start a verbal argument in front of her, in front of staff and other people. But I had to tell her, look, what the fuck, man? And by the way, this commentary may contain some strong language, so if you guys don't like that, then I advise you don't watch. But the thing is, it's just like one of those really WTF situations where I had to tell her. I could tell she wasn't being malicious because she was just trying to crack a joke. But at the same time, there's nothing funny about that. There really isn't. It's appalling, to be honest. There's no humour in mentioning my past. I mean, I could easily have ancestors who were slaves. I mean, it's more than feasible. So if I had to come out and say something like that, as a black guy, you should be used to carrying things. I mean, it's absolutely horrific. And it's not funny at all, and God, no, just no, really not funny at all. And another situation that happened to me on Twitter actually was a friend of mine I was getting to know, a fellow Formula One fan that was quite nice to me at the time, and we were talking to each other via direct message, and out of nowhere she asked me where I came from, and I said, oh yeah, I'm originally Jamaican, and She was able to guess that from because I told her my middle names, and she guessed I was Jamaican because they were very Jamaican-y names, and that wasn't the bad thing. But she said, she joked about being a part of the BNP and saying to get out of my country. Again, completely unacceptable. And for those guys who don't know what the BNP stands for, the BNP stands for the British National Party. And they're a party that have a lot of members who are very racist and very discriminatory against people who aren't white. Now, to be fair, the BNP have relaxed a lot of their points regarding things like immigration and racial segregation and whatnot. But there's still a lot of them who very much believe that Britain should be kept white. So obviously, as a London citizen who happens to be black, how's that going to make me feel? Like shit is the answer to that question. And I had to tell her, like, seriously, do you honestly expect me to laugh at something like that? Like, I've only just gotten to know you. Like, I don't know how you are going to think in that kind of way. And she spent like 15 DMs telling me like, oh, you know, I'm not racist or anything like that. I mean, I'm Irish, but I've got Pakistani like uncles and like aunties in my family, so I know what it's like. Well, then if you're so anti-discriminatory, then why the hell are you coming out with BNP references towards a black guy you barely know? And then, you know, basically she came up with this really long-winded apology, like trying to defend and backtrack a little bit. And then she ended up saying, oh, you know, can you just unfollow me, please? You know, because I feel really, really bad about this. Like, so bad she felt like the friendship could no longer be salvaged, and she wanted to break it off with me. So I just blocked her, because I was like, so let me get this straight. You've insulted me, you apologise, but then you want me to stop talking to you because you feel bad. Like, how selfish and self-serving is that? It's absolutely horrific. It's just I can't believe it. It's going to be absolutely ridiculous, and I can't stand like when people talk to me like that. It's just, again, it's not people being malicious, but it's just people being ignorant. And there's one thing I can't stand in society, it's ignorance. It's look, you can cure stupid with education. You can't cure ignorance, because it's bliss at the end of the day. People are going to be ignorant because it's what suits them, and they don't want to be challenged. They don't want people to question their motives or intentions or whatnot, and that's the worst part of that. The third one was a former best friend of mine who I got to know through high school. Her name was Roshana, and I remember like one time, I randomly looked at her Facebook profile because it was been a little while since I spoke to her. I just wanted to drop by her Facebook wall and say hi, and her occupation at the top of the page was clan leader at KKK. Now, obviously, I took offence to that, so I messaged her saying, okay, why is your profile name called clan leader at KKK? Like, why is that your occupation? And she said she was dared into doing it. And she said, isn't that kind of bullshit, to be honest with you? You know I'm very close to you and a black friend. Don't you think you'd be causing offence? She said, oh, I can't be asked to change it. I'm feeling ill and my other black friends are okay with it, so why can't you be? Look, I don't give a shit if your other black friends are okay with it. That's got nothing to do with me. I took offence to it, and as someone who was a close friend, I thought she'd be better than that. She clearly didn't, so I blocked her. I haven't spoken to her in over a year. So, I mean, it's one of those things where ignorance is one of the worst parts of society. And I remember Mickey Motions spoke to me about this on Twitter last night, basically talking about a YouTuber. I think it was Care Bear X Zero. I think she's done a lot of work with KSI and Zerka and people like that, and she gets a lot of abuse basically because she grew up in the East End of London, you know, so they're very cockney, like, you know, alright mate, how you doing, and all that palaver. And because she's from the East End of London, she gets a lot of abuse because of how she talks and basically her accent. And I'll be honest, I hold my hands up to this. I've been guilty of this before. Like, when I first started on YouTube, I didn't like Mickey Motion's work because of his accent, and I thought, oh, it's really off-putting and really awkward and whatnot. And honestly, that was me being ignorant, and I hold my hands up and I wholeheartedly apologised to Mickey after that. After I got to know him, I realised he's a decent kid. But at the same time, again, I'm guilty of the same crime sometimes, and I'm not saying, yeah, to a degree I am kind of hypocritical because I've thought in that way before myself, but that's when I was younger and that's when I was more foolish, and I took the time to learn and realise and, you know, grow as a person to say, look, this is wrong, and, you know, to have preconceived notions and stereotypes and it's terrible, isn't it, really? I mean, being attacked just because of the way you speak, which absolutely can't be helped, it's horrible. And again, I would know. I mean, I was bullied through high school for many years because of my accent, because I didn't speak like a typical black guy. And there's a lot of guys from Drayton who still watch me now to this day who made Australian accent references, who now all of a sudden want to like and respect me and all that because was my balls dropped, my voice got deeper? Is that it? I mean, like I read through my old Drayton Manor school book of people who signed it, and everybody was all being nice to me in the last couple of years and whatnot. But that many of those people were the same ones that would be the first people to come out of Australian references, like, oh look, he looks like the cricketer Andrew Simons, or oh, what, he's gone to Australia. Yeah, you go and play the didgeridoo, and basically they came out of all these fucking Australian references towards me all the time, and it made me feel like shit. I felt like I was being bullied the first 4 or 5 years of my high school life, and you know what people say, right? The best form of defense is a good attack. So I fought back in some ways, and I would use references against them. And looking back on that, I regret that because it was really immature of me, and I could have been the bigger person to say, I'm not gonna let this affect me. Maybe it's because I was younger, but it's terrible. Like, we need to drop these preconceived notions and stereotypes about people in society these days. It's terrible, and casual racism is something, because I think there's a theory out there. I have a theory that a lot of people are racist within their own four walls. Like, in the safety of their own home, where they know that no one can reprimand them or say anything otherwise, they'll joke about, race, religion. Basically, there's no holds barred when it comes to insulting things. And I've realised this, is that people have said this to me before, where, inside our own four walls are all a little bit racist. And, that's wrong. And that's why I stopped doing that. Because the thing is like, it's the same thing applies to the internet in comparison to the whole four walls theory, because on the internet you can tend to say those kind of things and get away with it because there's no real punishment. I mean, yeah, in rare cases like the Ollie Riley situation when he was insulting Tom Daley's dad in the Olympics, or when people were getting arrested for racial abuse, when Ashley Young and who was the other England player who was black who missed a penalty? Ashley Cole got racial abuse after missing their penalties against Italy in the Euro 2012 quarterfinals. So, again, we all know what it's like, and I've seen it with my own eyes. It's terrible. I call it casual racism because a lot of these people are not ignorant. They're not stupid. They're just ignorant because they don't know any better. Like, this generation, I think, and generations past, have been taught by those who are older about certain races and religions and whatnot, and they're going to bring it out there to society when they get older because that's what they've been taught. Like, a lot of it is lazy parenting, in my honest opinion, where the parents themselves are ignorant. They could be racist, they could be sexist, they could be whatever, and they'll pass it on to their children. And because obviously they're going to listen to their parents, it's just natural, they'll pass it on to the next generation with these preconceived ignorant notions. I mean, you can relate it back to a lot of sport. Like, for example, the Chelsea situation when John Terry was accused of racism towards Anton Ferdinand. And then Rio goes out and calls Ashley Cole a choc ice on Twitter. How friggin' stupid is that? You look like a hypocrite. I know a Chelsea fan who actually attacked me for saying that, they're booing Rio because he got involved in the racism case he had nothing to do with. Which my response was, because God forbid a brother would want to defend a brother who was racially abused by someone who's actually probably a friend, because I wouldn't believe that John Terry and Rio Ferdinand weren't friends before the racism case came out. They played together for England after all. They've spent large amounts of time together. Or the Chelsea fans who were racially abusing Manchester United's black players during the Carling Cup earlier this season. Even though their 2 game-winning goals were scored by black players, i.e. Ramirez, who's a Brazilian black player. A lot of this is just spiraling ignorance, and then they pass it on to the next generation who don't know any better. So they're going to come out of it, and when it comes out into the grand society, people are going to have to re-educate these people on how to treat somebody right in society and whatnot. And it's absolutely terrible, and I fear for the future of this country. I mean, it's 2013, okay? We should be above racial taunts, stereotypes, and discrimination of any kind. Yet, it's still rife, and it's horrific to still see it happen in today's society. And I'm tired of it. Like, it's not like these are young kids who don't know any better. These are full-blown young adults, like people between the ages of 18 and 22. Like the one on Twitter who was attacking me, she was 17. The Lithuanian who was racial towards me in the corridor, she's 23. And she's from Lithuania. She should know all about these discriminatory issues. Like because she grew up in Eastern Europe. think of all the things like the Germans in World War II, and when they were racist, they were discriminatory against Jewish people and those who weren't, the Aryan race of blonde-haired, blue-eyed people. Like, people should know this, and yet you want to attack me for being a black guy? I mean, it's terrible. Like, and Roshana, the one who had the KKK Facebook status, she was 16 at the time. They've had educations. They should know better. And, we as society in general should know better. And that is why it's so frustrating for me as a young black guy in this country to see this still happen in 2013. I embrace and I love my culture, the good sides and the bad sides, and I want to try and be a role model for people out there and, be an ideal representative for society. But at the same time, as long as there's ignorant, stupid people that still exist, we're always going to be held back as a nation and as a society in general. And I wish it would stop, because people, for the sake of banter or for the sake of saying jokes they don't really mean, and they don't even realise the offence it's causing, and it's terrible and it needs to stop. But that's just how I see it. Anywho, if you've got a take on the whole situation, please let me know. I hope you guys haven't taken offence to anything I've said, and I hope you guys can understand my point of view on the whole situation. In the meantime, hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully I'll have a bit more grid at the weekend, and obviously Chinese Grand Prix race review on Sunday and around the corner on Monday. So a lot to look forward to, hopefully. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I've been Harrison101, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.